What if the apology you've been waiting for, the one you've rehearsed receiving in your head 1,000 times, the one you've cried for at 3 a.m., the one you deserve, what if it never comes? What then? Does your healing just stop? Does your life just pause indefinitely while someone else decides whether you're worth an "I'm sorry"? Here's what nobody is brave enough to tell you. The most dangerous place you can live is inside the waiting room of someone else's accountability. Because while you are waiting, they are living. While you are breaking, they are breathing. And here's the truth that will either shatter you or set you free. You do not need their apology to begin healing. You never did. What you need, the only thing you have ever needed, is the radical, terrifying, beautiful courage to choose yourself. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share will change the way you carry every wound you've ever been given. What if the most painful prison you have ever lived in had no iron bars, no locked doors, no chains around your wrists, but was built entirely from 3 words you never received? I am sorry. What if those 3 words, or rather the absence of them, have become the invisible walls of a life you were never supposed to be living? I want to talk to you today about something that is uncomfortable, something that is deeply human, and something that most people are too afraid to confront honestly. I want to talk about what happens when someone causes you profound, life-altering pain, and then simply doesn't apologize, doesn't acknowledge it, doesn't show remorse, doesn't even seem to remember. What happens to you in that silence? Because here's what I've learned from years of studying human connection, vulnerability, and shame. The silence of an unapologetic person is one of the most psychologically destructive forces a human being can experience. It creates a particular kind of wound, one that doesn't just hurt but confuses. It makes you question your own reality. Did that really happen? Was it really that bad? Am I being too sensitive? Maybe if I had just done something differently. And that confusion, that self-questioning is where shame begins to breed. Let's be brutally honest with each other right now. Someone hurt you. Maybe they betrayed your trust in the most intimate way imaginable. Maybe they abandoned you when you needed them most. Maybe they humiliated you publicly or quietly or repeatedly. Maybe they took something from you that you can never fully get back, and they know what they did, they know. And they have chosen with full awareness to never acknowledge it, to never say those 3 words that your whole nervous system is craving. And here you are, still waiting, still hurting, still hoping. Can I tell you something that might make you angry before it sets you free? That waiting, that desperate, exhausting, hope-filled waiting is not loyalty. It is not love. It is not strength. It is the most expensive subscription you have ever signed up for, and you are paying for it with your life. Every single day you spend waiting for their apology is a day you have handed them the keys to your healing. You have made your wholeness dependent on their willingness. And if there is one thing I know about people who refuse to apologize, it is this. They will not suddenly wake up tomorrow, look in the mirror, feel the full weight of what they did to you, and come running to your door with remorse. That is a beautiful story, but it is not usually the story that happens. So what do? The first thing, and this is the hardest thing, is to stop confusing forgiveness with approval. We have been taught in our families, in our cultures, in our religious traditions, that forgiveness is something we give to people who deserve it. That it is a transaction, they apologize, we forgive, everyone feels better. But real forgiveness, the kind that actually heals you, is not transactional at all. It is not something you give them. It is something you do for yourself. Think about it this way. Imagine you swallowed poison, and the person who gave you that poison is standing across the room, perfectly fine, eating a sandwich, completely unbothered. Would you refuse to take the antidote because they haven't apologized yet? Would you say, no, I will keep this poison in my body until they acknowledge what they did? Of course not. That would be madness. But that is exactly what we do emotionally. We carry the poison of bitterness, resentment, and grief inside our bodies, inside our hearts, our muscles, our immune systems, because we are waiting for the person who hurt us to hand us permission to heal. And they are out there, living, breathing, not waiting. Forgiveness is taking the antidote yourself. It is not saying what you did was okay. It is saying what you did will not be the thing that destroys me. Now, I need to talk about something that doesn't get discussed enough in conversations about healing, the validity of your anger. Your anger is real. Your pain is real. Your grief is real. Every single feeling you have experienced since that wound was inflicted is valid, legitimate, and deserves to be honored. I am not standing here asking you to pretend it didn't hurt. I am not asking you to minimize it, rush through it, or perform recovery for the comfort of people around you who don't know how to sit with your pain. Grief is not weakness. Anger is not bitterness. They are appropriate human responses to real human wounds. But here's what I need you to hear, and I need you to really hear this. Justified anger, when held too long, stops punishing the person who wronged you and starts destroying the person who's carrying it. It becomes acid in your own chest. It narrows your world. It makes you smaller. It makes trust feel impossible and love feel dangerous and joy feel like a trap. The bravest thing you can do, more courageous than any grand gesture, any confrontation, any public declaration, is to feel your anger fully, honor it completely, and then make a conscious, deliberate, revolutionary choice not to let it become your permanent home, because you deserve better than a life built inside your own wound. Let's talk about the stories we tell ourselves after we've been hurt. The human brain is not a camera. It does not simply record what happened and play it back neutrally. It is a meaning-making machine, and after trauma, after betrayal, after the kind of pain that rearranges who you thought you were, your brain starts working overtime to make sense of it all. And sometimes, often, the stories it creates are more dangerous than the original wound. I wasn't lovable enough, so they left. I trusted someone and was destroyed, so trust is foolish. I gave everything I had and it wasn't valued, so I am not valuable. When people always leave, people always hurt me, I am always the one who suffers. These stories feel like truth. They feel like wisdom, like hard-earned lessons from real experience, but they are not facts. They are wounds that have learned to speak in the first person. And every time you repeat those stories to yourself, in your journal, to your friends, in your own mind at 2 a.m., you are reinforcing them. You are building a stronger and stronger neural case for your own limitation. You are, without intending to, becoming the author of your own imprisonment. The question that changes everything is this story true, or is this story just the most painful interpretation of what happened? Because there is always another story available, one where you are not the helpless victim of someone else's cruelty, but a person of extraordinary resilience who survived something that was not your fault and is choosing actively, bravely, imperfectly to build something new from the wreckage. That story is also true, and it leads somewhere completely different. Now I want to talk about boundaries, because this is where people get it most dangerously wrong. After being deeply hurt, people are often pressured back into the very relationships, environments, or dynamics that wounded them. They are told to forgive and forget, to keep the peace, to not make it a big deal. And because they are already exhausted from the pain of the original wound, and because they desperately want the discomfort of the situation to end, they comply. They go back, they shrink, they accept less, they call it grace, they call it being the bigger person. But there is a crucial life-altering difference between genuine grace and self-abandonment. And it is this: grace costs you something and gives something back. Self-abandonment costs you everything and leaves you with nothing but the hollow comfort of someone else's temporary approval. Boundaries are not punishments you inflict on people who hurt you. They are not acts of revenge or declarations of war. Boundaries are the clearest possible expression of self-knowledge and self-worth. They say, I know what I need to remain emotionally healthy. I know what I will and will not accept. I know where I end and where you begin. Setting boundaries after being hurt, especially without an apology, especially against social pressure, especially when the other person calls you dramatic or unforgiving, is one of the most profound acts of self-respect a human being can perform. It is not bitterness, it is becoming. And finally, the truth that is at the absolute center of everything I am saying today: your healing was never about them. Not even a little bit. It was never contingent on their apology, their acknowledgement, their remorse, or their participation. It was never waiting for them to finally understand the depth of what they did. Your healing exists completely independently of them, available to you right now in this moment, and the only person standing between you and it is you. That is terrifying, because it is so much easier to make our healing someone else's responsibility. If they would just apologize, we could move on. If they would just acknowledge it, we could breathe again. Waiting for them to act feels like doing something, like we are in motion, like healing is happening, but it is the most convincing form of standing still there is. Real healing, the messy, nonlinear, devastating, and ultimately miraculous kind, requires you to grieve fully, without rushing, without performing, without a timeline imposed by people who have not walked in your wound. You have to grieve the relationship you thought you had, the person you believed they were, the future you had already imagined, the version of yourself that existed before the wound. You have to let yourself feel the full weight of that loss, sit inside it, cry inside it, rage inside it, and then when you are ready, begin to gather the pieces of who you still are, not who you were before. That person is gone, and honestly, she or he was too unguarded for the world that was coming. But a new version, wiser, more boundaried, more deeply acquainted with your own resilience than you ever could have been without this pain. You do not need their sorry, you need your own courage. You need the audacious, trembling, extraordinary decision to choose yourself, not because you have fully healed, not because the pain is gone, not because you have completely forgiven, but simply because you have decided that your one precious, irreplaceable life deserves more than an indefinite pause. Choose yourself today, not perfectly, not without grief, not without the wound still aching, but choose yourself. Here's what I want to leave with you today, the single most important truth in everything we have explored together. The apology you never received does not have the power to define the rest of your life. Only you have that power. The person who hurt you made a choice, and in their silence they made another one. But you also have a choice. You can remain in the waiting room of their accountability, or you can walk out the door and begin building the life that was always yours to live. Healing is not linear, it is not pretty, it does not happen on a schedule. There will be days when you think you have finally let go, and then a song comes on or a memory surfaces and you are right back in the middle of the wound. That does not mean you have failed. That means you are human, and being human, fully, vulnerably, courageously human, is the most extraordinary thing you will ever be. You do not need closure from them to open a new chapter for yourself. You do not need their apology to begin your healing. You do not need their acknowledgement to know that what happened to you was real, it was wrong, and you deserved so much better. What you need, the only thing you have ever needed, is the decision that you are worth fighting for. Not by them, by you. So make that decision today. Imperfectly, reluctantly, tearfully if you must, but make it, because you are not just surviving this, you are becoming someone extraordinary because of it.